Hey, what's up, everybody? Little different kind of video tonight because it's been a really long 7 hours. So it's been snowing here for about the last 3 days straight. I think it's supposed to continue snowing through the next 2 days, which for here is completely uncommon. But I left my house today to go up to my girlfriend's house, and there was a car that had slid off the road into the ditch. So I just decided to stop and check on them, and it turned out to be two elderly ladies from Arizona, and they were trying to head up to Denver, Colorado, and that was still about another 70 miles on their trip, and they were stuck. So, looking at it, that they were in a rental car, they had a bunch of stuff in the back of their vehicle and just road conditions and that. Um, Decided to help them get a hold of a tow truck, so went through the rental car companies, um, their roadside service. Not going to name the rental car company, and they said they would get a tow truck for them. I kind of told them exactly where they were on the highway because they were in the middle of the highway and it's in the middle of nowhere, so you really need to know your mile markers. Not so much, you know, I'm sitting outside of McDonald's here. And I told them I'd wait with them until the tow truck showed up. So I was sitting in my truck while they were sitting there in their car with the heater on and that, and made sure all their stuff was clear. They were okay, weren't hurt. They were just a little shaken up. And about an hour and a half later, the roadside service from that rental car company called back and said they can't get a hold of a tow truck. They can't find anybody to come tow them out. Well, I made a couple of phone calls, and a lot of the tow companies were really busy, but I eventually got a hold of Scott's Towing. Their business card's a little hard to read, but if you're ever in the Colorado area and you need a tow, it's 719-373-2220. Sorry, the card's a little crunched. As you can see, it was wet out. I was getting covered in snow constantly. A couple of other people stopped after I was stopped. A few of our highway patrol guys stopped, and the fire department stopped by too because they were running down the highway because that section of the highway doesn't get plowed. It doesn't. But like I said, sat there with them for an hour and a half before that rental car company's roadside service called back and said they couldn't find a tow truck. And then I got a hold of Scott's Towing out here, and they showed up, and he had his wife with him, and they're in a single cab truck. So I told them, they let me know this on the phone, and I told them it's fine. I got room in my truck. They can ride with me, and we'll just tow them up the road to where the Loves and the Microtel Hotel is at, because that was literally the closest hotel and nearest area that had one. They needed gas, so they could get gas in the morning if the roads are clear enough for them to drive. There's also a couple of restaurants right in the area, so they can get some food and whatnot, but also have a warm place to sleep that night because they were definitely not making it up to Denver, Colorado. Anyways, tow truck shows up, did that, dropped them off, helped them, get what they needed to in the hotel, everything. And I figured they had a bad enough night, so I paid for the tow for them just because out of town, and I would honestly really appreciate it if somebody did that for my grandmother if she was out and stuck in a snowstorm. But then I left the hotel to just start heading back to the house because by this time I left at 5, and I think going on now it was about 10 o'clock, so it had been about 5 hours since I left. And I literally made it out 12 miles up the road at that point in time, but a lot of that was waiting for the tow truck to show up because everybody's busy tonight. There's a lot of cars slid off the side of the road. I started heading back towards my house. Of course, I hit a bump in the road and broke my upper ball joint on my truck. So guess who needed a tow truck? I wasn't happy. Luckily, I knew of a tow truck that had a high possibility of being available really quick. And that was Scott. And he showed up. We had a good laugh about it. It's just one of those things. Shit happens. We loaded my truck on his. We towed it up to my house. I told him drop it at the bottom of my driveway because there's no way in hell his tow truck was going to make it up my driveway, especially in the snow. And I actually told him he could drop it at the top of the hill, but he thought he could make it down and get back up because from the time I left and got back, we got 14 inches of snow. Needless to say, he dropped my truck off. Even with the broken ball joint, figured, if it does a little bit more damage, it does a little bit more damage to the truck, but just get it out of the road and into the bottom half of my driveway. My driveway is about a quarter mile long. It's not too bad, but the bottom of my driveway is about 40 feet lower than where my house is at. So needless to say, got the truck pulled in. This guy got the chains on his tow truck, turned around that. I kind of helped him because we got some pretty big ditches down there, so I stood in the ditch so he could at least see and not put his truck in the ditch because honestly, I really didn't want the guy to get stuck because he really went out of his way to immediately take me when they had another call and drop me off back down at my house and give me a discount on that tow. But again, it's kind of one of those things. If you see somebody in a ditch, especially nowadays, there's a lot of other states that people just stop and check on them. And places like Colorado and that doesn't happen that often. Everybody here just assumes you got a cell phone, somebody's on the way, you're taken care of, and you run into situations like that. So kind of the moral of the story is if it's safe and you have the ability to do it, stop and help somebody out. In my case, it was a blessing in disguise because one, they got to a safe place. They weren't stuck in a median and also, hey, the upper control arm on my truck could have snapped somewhere else. And it just happened to snap in the one place of where you're going 20 miles an hour. And it's a 3-lane road right there. So there was plenty of room for people to be able to get around me while I waited the 5 minutes for Scott to come over and load my truck up. Shit happens. Check on people, especially if it's a snowstorm. I'm not saying in the middle of the night, clear weather, but hey, if it's a snowstorm and there's a car sitting in a ditch, just check and see if anybody's inside of it, if it's safe for you to do so. Hopefully you don't run into the same problem I did to where your truck ends up breaking in the process. But honestly, the way it broke, that part was probably on its way out, so I'm kind of glad it happened the way that it happened. It's been 7 hours since I left my house and got back here and literally made it 12 miles up the road and 12 miles back on the back of a tow truck. So shit happens. But again, if you're ever in the Colorado Springs area or Fountain and you need a tow, check out Scott. They're good people. That, again, phone number 719-373-2220. And I know the 2 elderly ladies that I helped out tonight will probably never see this video. I just want to say, wish you the best of luck, safe travels. It was really nice meeting you, and I'm glad you have a safe, warm place to sleep tonight. Anyways, everybody, like I said, different style of video, but thanks for stopping in. Have a good night, and I will see you in the next one.